There is no way you have to go and borrow from World Bank in order that you will send these girls back to school, while those who have graduated so many years ago have no job. Nigeria has gone to World Bank to borrow another money again. Formerly, they borrowed $500 million from World Bank, and then they termed it that they wanted to make use of that $500 million to empower women in the country. On Friday, September 22, 2023, they have gone again to World Bank to borrow another $700 million. They termed this one that they want to make use of this $700 million for Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment. They said if they should empower adolescent girls, then it will help the country a lot. That this money will be used to send back girls who are out of school. This money will be used to send those girls who are already married back to school. That the money will be used to send those girls who have physical challenges back to school. They are saying that this will take place in those targeted areas where girls have no opportunity of not going back to school. Those 7 states include Borno State, Ekiti State, Kano State, Kaduna State, Katsina State, Kebbi State, and then Plateau State. These are the 7 states where they said that girls there cannot go to school just because of what? Lack of money by the parents. They said that they will add another 11 states where they will try to send back the adolescent girls there to school. They said that they have already renovated about 5,000 classrooms for these girls. And then about 250,000 girls are already on scholarship. Nigeria, my country. Ị chọrọ ka anyị mere gị birthday shoutouts, announcements, advertisement of your products? Chat us up on WhatsApp through +234 8067 841298. Do you know that Nigeria is reporting that Nigeria working population will surely be the largest around the world? That is why they are saying that it is imperative to send these girls back to school so that it will bring a growth in the economy of Nigeria. How can sending these girls back to school improve the economy of Nigeria? How can Nigeria always depend on borrowing from World Bank in order to bring development to Nigeria? How can you borrow for something like this? It is true that sending these girls back to school is good, yes, but when they must have graduated from all these schools, where will they find their job opportunities? There are millions and millions of Nigerians who have passed out of school, but after graduating from school, do they have any job? No. Just because of what? Government of Nigeria is lacking in provision of jobs in Nigeria. There is no way you have to go and borrow from World Bank in order that you will send these girls back to school, while those who have graduated so many years ago have no job. It is quite important that you can borrow from World Bank, but channeling it to something that is good and then something that will bring development to the country. That is the best. Had it been the government will say, let me borrow $700 million from World Bank and then make use of it in reconstructing those failed refineries we have in our country, those failed institutions where if they are able to bring it to life again, it will bring more job opportunities in Nigeria. How can you just be borrowing for something that after investing in all those things, you will not see any positive improvement in it? You have borrowed $500 million, saying that you borrowed the money to empower women. How many women came on social media and then testified that they gained from that borrowing of $500 million from the government? Now, if you are able to borrow this $700 million from World Bank, how many girls on the street will testify that they are able to go back to school as beneficiaries of this borrowing of $700 million from World Bank? There are so many children on the street. You can send them back to school without borrowing from World Bank. Now you are channeling it that when you borrow this $700 million, that students will benefit from that, teachers will benefit, villages will benefit, communities will benefit. Who does that? How many people will testify that they will benefit from this $700 million, which Nigerians know that after borrowing this money, they will still share this money among themselves? Nigeria is only dependent on borrowing for consumption. It is high time Nigerians began to borrow in order to produce. Had it been the government is borrowing this money and now say, okay, we have borrowed this money to go into processing of garri in the country. We are borrowing this money to go into processing of some items in our country, Nigeria, so that some of the items that are being imported in Nigeria that are foreign will now reduce. But you only borrow and then use the money and pay to those in Senate. It is quite easy to make a loan from World Bank. But how do you plan to pay all this money back to World Bank? You can only pay this as easy as possible through what? Borrowing to produce. So that as you are producing, the money the production will be yielding can now be used by the government to redeem those money they borrowed from World Bank. But Nigeria is not thinking in this direction, only borrowing to share among those who have been benefiting from all this money. These 11 states not mentioned will be for the benefit of those who will surely benefit from that $700 million. Nigeria, it is time you begin to tell the government that this borrowing of a thing will never ever go a long way in assisting the growth and prospect of the economy of Nigeria.